Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunswick. Okay, so today's guest, we have Austin Cohen on, and he is delightful. Oh my God, you're going to love him. If you don't know who Austin is, he was actually a speaker at Cairo WealthCon back in October. And he absolutely talked about lessons in leadership, how he grew to 15 clinics, like, or is it 17? Like, it's insane. It's like when you stop counting. I don't know if you have patients who have lots of kids, and like there's something that happens once a patient has like 4 kids where I'm like, do you have 4, 5, 6? I don't know. I don't know. I stop, like, I'm unable to keep up with your children. And then you feel like a jerk because you call them the wrong name. But then you're like, no, 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 no. I only have 2 kids and I call my own kids the wrong name. So like, don't take this personal. It's not that I can't keep your kids straight. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe not. But anyways, Austin was at Cairo WealthCon. I've got a couple questions this week about the Cairo WealthCon product. I'm sorry, it's gone. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like if you were listening to the podcast, you knew it was happening. Ugh, sorry. It's gone. It will probably be available next year around the time of Cairo WealthCon again. If we do Cairo WealthCon again, but it's definitely leaning towards a yes. So like probably. Um, so yeah, sorry about that. But you could join the multi-passionate chiropreneur wait list because that's coming up. But some of you who've asked are like, well, I've already done the multi-passionate chiropreneur. Well, then I don't know how to help you. Okay. But yeah. So he was at Cairo WealthCon. Oh, another question I've gotten is what similar type events could you go to with like your team? I've been getting a lot of like events questions for 2025. So here, I don't really like it, kind of depends. Cairo WealthCon was unique that it was meeting chiropractors where most of you are and trying to elevate the conversation and your like dictionary of terms and understanding about wealth and investing. So like most conferences, so there isn't anything like it specifically for chiropractors and docs. Most conferences that are about finance and wealth and investing might be I don't wanna say over your head by any means, but, like, I don't know, they could definitely you might need to take notes and do some research after the fact. Um, I like TRP, The Remarkable Practice. I like their events. I think they do a great job. Ryan Reeder has some really good stuff on marketing. I don't know what his schedule looks like coming up. Cairo Intensive, so both Elise and Steph Wigner's Scale Up, like, so Steph is looking at doing Scale Up again. I was at that last year. It was really good. Cairo Intensive events, really good. Like, honestly, those are kind of like what is coming to mind. I've never been to an amped event though. And I feel like in my talking to amped docs, I feel like you would walk away from an amped event like full of really tactical take home information on Monday, but I cannot confirm or deny that. I know a lot of you are just looking for like stuff to take your team to, and I totally get that. Taking your team to stuff is so important, and you really want to know because it's expensive to take your team that like you're going to get that bang for your buck type of thing. So, yeah, we are kind of in this like lull within chiropractic where it's like there's not a lot of team focused events. So I don't know. I'll keep you in the loop. I'll keep you in the loop as it comes out. This is your reminder that if you have not shared the podcast recently on your social media, please do so. I would love that. That would make me happy. And then make sure you are subscribed or following. Make sure you're on our newsletter. We send out a weekly list, right? List. Yeah, we send out a weekly list. No, we send out just like a little weekly blurb, helping you kind of transition through boredom, financial growth, or burnout. The triple B's, we call it, burnout, broken board. But also, you're going to want to make sure that you're on that list because coming in December, I'm going to be starting to give you some information about the multi passionate chiropreneur. if you're on that wait list, you will get access to the cheapest route of entering that program. And you'll get first access to it. So if you're not on our wait list, mailing list, all of that, make sure you are. So, without further ado, let's talk about Austin. So, Dr. Austin Cohen is a prominent entrepreneur in the chiropractic industry, owning 14 successful, 14. I swear it's 15. I swear since he wrote his bio, he's added a couple. Like he slept and woke up and there were more. All right, but his bio does say 14 successful corrective maybe maybe one of them's not successful. I'm joking. I'm joking. Anyways, he owns 14 successful corrective chiropractic clinics and founding L5 Marketing, which helps chiropractors with Google marketing, and Chiro 180, a software company focused on improving patient retention and revenue. His businesses have earned accolades like the Inc. 5000 Award, Best Place to Work, and a spot among Atlanta's top 75 fastest growing businesses. A devoted family man and extreme sports enthusiast, Dr. Cohen has completed Ironman races, a 100-mile run, and the SEAL Fit Hell Week, living by the mantras, remember tomorrow, be where your feet are, and get comfortable being uncomfortable. Remember tomorrow. I don't really know what that means. If I would have read his bio ahead of time, I would have asked, like, what does remember tomorrow mean to you? Because to me, it means nothing. I don't get it. I don't like I have been asked that. I like that he included like these are his quotes. I've gotten asked that before in my like in a pre-podcast interview of like, what quote do you live by? And I'm like, is the coffee ready yet? But no, that's not, I don't know. I don't know. How many downloads did it get? Am I going viral? Like, I don't know. I'll talk to my therapist about what quote I live by. I'm just not there yet, people. Someday I will be. All right, let's take a big ol' breath. Oh God. I don't know if there has been more of a time that I have wanted to just send myself out to every single person right now and just give them a big old squeeze. Like, one of those squeezes, like, people who give good hugs. Like, this isn't just a half ass hug. This is like my heart is lined up with it wouldn't be with your heart because that's not how we hug. My heart would be lined up with their right side of their chest. But, anyways, my chest is touching your chest right now, and I am helping you co regulate and like hugging you with so much love and intention. Um, it's just been a week and I'm so thankful for every person that thinks similarly, but I'm even more grateful for the people who thinks differently because I think that having difference of opinions and conversations is like what just drives me. I love talking to people who have different opinions and understanding where they are and just knowing that we don't have to agree. Like I'm not here to agree or disagree with my audience. I'm just here to like learn and listen and take their wisdom away from aspects of life. So help us to continue to just love, love, and respect each other because that is what I stand for. And the reason I show up every week is to help chiropractors, clinicians, practitioners find more peace within their life and their finances and their family and their marriage, and just do what I can in that process. So, God, just give them a hug for me since I can't because there's a microphone in my way. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, crew, without further ado, here is my conversation with Austin Cohen. Enjoy. All right, Austin. Well, welcome to the podcast. You are in the middle of a hurricane right now, we were just talking about, and you are powered up by chargers and all of that.
Yeah, we are powered up right now by, let's see, I've got my portable charger right here. We charged last night. We've got our light fixture up here that is fueled by that. And then my trusty old microphone as well. And we are hotspotted from my phone now into this, to this computer. So Lauryn, it all worked the way it was supposed to work
I
today.
do want everyone to know that I did offer to reschedule, but I just think it's hilarious because I had messaged you 12 hours ago because I was coming through Atlanta on a connecting flight and I had no idea you lived in Atlanta. And so I was like, hey, I don't know what this storm or hurricane's going to do or how it's going to affect. So like hopefully we're still on for recording. And you're like, yeah, sounds good. Meanwhile, you're like, I'm actually in Atlanta. So the time that it's supposed to hit us is exactly when like it's like bad right now, right?
No, it's not bad right now. It was bad earlier in the morning. When we've had been out without power for about 5 hours right now. So
Okay.
tree fell down about a mile down from the street, and so we are without power. But you know what? To me, and this is something you'll learn about me, and for any of the listeners who as well who know me as well, is just I'm real. I'm very authentic. I don't need to be on this with lights coming from like everywhere and like my professional camera to be on
Would
right
that
now.
normally be how it would be?
It would be that way actually, and
Oh, I
but
didn't
I
know
but
you
I
were so
love this.
profesh.
I love this. I love the rawness and the realness of this.
This is like the grimy, real, old school you then.
This is it. This is me. And you'll see episodes of a little man running by here too as well because
I
he is
already
out of
saw him peek up
right
behind
now
you. Yeah.
due to the hurricane. And so he'll be here too as well. But that's a part of me, by the way, as well. He won't be talking, but that's a big part of my life too as well. For those of if you ever see my stuff on social media, that's how I live my life. So real, raw, family driven.
Yeah. And so we're recording before Cairo WealthCon, but this will be released after. You were great. You did amazing at the conference. Like, congrats.
Appreciate that. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Yeah, anytime I'm telling listeners, like as I'm recording an intro, I'm like, so this coming weekend, I'm going to speak at a conference, but have you seen any of the studies or heard any of the stuff talking about how like you can okay, all right, hold up. My brain is gonna so if I'm recording an intro and it's like I'm recording it now and sending it out into the ether, and let's say it's going to release on Sunday of this week, but Saturday I'm speaking. So people will not be even hearing that I spoke until after it happened, but in that moment they can put good intention towards it, and that will actually have like this weird wormhole loop effect that people in the future can give good intentions to something that already happened and will have a positive
What?
outcome.
Is this
Yeah.
all about like this kind of tie back into like positive? Like it's like I tell my son before he swings a bat, right? I'm like, visualize yourself before you swing a bat, visualize yourself like already hitting a home run.
Yeah.
Like, does it tie into that same concept or
I think it's
it's
different
fascinating?
because that would be like him after the game. I don't know. It's like Inception shit with, Leonardo DiCaprio. I'll find the study
Oh
or
man, I
something.
love this.
Mhm.
This is like Joe Rogan conversations,
Right.
by the way. This is what he's talking about. So
This is where I
um
said I'm not gonna ask you about your chiropractic origin story.
no, we're going down. I mean, I love that route, by the way. I'm all about like anything you tell me. If you're like, Austin, yeah, if you talk to yourself after you've already given an adjustment, you tell yourself how good that adjustment was, it makes it even that much better. I'm like, for real? I'm going to do that now every time.
Have you always been, like, really receptive to woo-woo stuff?
If it makes
And I feel
sense.
like calling it woo-woo stuff is offensive, but
No, I understand what you mean, actually. If it makes sense, there are some things that are out there, by the way, that I'm like, I don't know about that. But there are some things that do make sense when you put certain things together. So
I think we've never been in an easier stage of, like, history or mankind to believe in the woo-woo. Like, at this point, we've got so much science coming out, like, is it even really saying believe it's kind of like saying believe in chiropractic. Now it's like, well, okay, well, that was we have a lot of science. You don't need to believe in it. It's not a religion, but
yeah,
like
but
maybe in
woo woo,
1896, like it's like
right?
there's a lot of trust there that needs to happen. But we've got science coming out about the woo-woo and how
And
important
woo
it
woo
is.
50 years ago was, like stuff that's real in today's world was woo woo 50 years ago.
Exactly.
And so it's just, yeah, I mean, like, I wonder if like the things we talk about today that people are like, that's red light therapy. That is purely like placebo. And in 50 years, they'd be like, you didn't do red
You
light
do.
therapy. Are
Right.
you out of your mind? Okay, here's a good example of woo that's lost me a lot of money. You ready for this one? This is a great story. So back in 2012, so I started my practice in '09. In 2012, I had a lady come to my office who worked for a company called BitPay. It was a merchant service company for Bitcoin. They were the first ones, and they wanted to distribute Bitcoin out into the healthcare field. So she came to my office and she goes, "Hey, I don't get paid in cash, but I do get paid in Bitcoin. Can I use that in your facilities?" And I go, absolutely. So I go, that's woo woo.
Yep.
I don't believe any of this Bitcoin stuff. She's like, well, if you do, like, I can bring all my employees in, and we could probably have you like 50 to 100 Bitcoin. This is back when it was like $100 a
50 to
share.
100 Bitcoin.
Yes. So talk about like somebody. I don't. If somebody tells me something's woo woo anymore, I'll buy it. Like that's what I mean, right? Like that's Lauren. That is, I'd be retired. Like not retired, but I'd be doing everything I want to do every day now. How crazy is that though? 12 years ago, I could have had about, let's say, 100 Bitcoin that are now worth about $60,000. That's yeah,
Mhm.
about $60 million I would have had.
Does that freak you out when you think about those, like, the missed opportunities that are happening? Like, does it give you seem like such an optimistic guy, but, like, as you're going through life now, are you like, "Ah, is this a missed opportunity? If I don't take advantage of this," do you just have, like, constant FOMO because you're scared
Dude,
about the next Bitcoin situation?
I'm not scared about that. I'm more strategic on the decisions and things I do now in today's world, I will say. I'm definitely willing more to take risk now just based on, the place we've gotten to in our life. But, one thing I've learned, I think, over the years is that one thing I don't do, and I've learned this the hard way, is I don't make decisions on emotion and ego. Right. And that's like for me, like the safest place. So if somebody came to me with something, yes, I'm like an expressive personality. I'm like emotion to the max. But I've learned that if I'm in not a good emotional state, I can't make a decision on that, whether it's an investment opportunity, whether it's a conversation, whether it's giving advice, like receiving advice, having a conversation with an employee. Yeah, I feel like as I've matured and gotten older, things that I value nowadays have just gotten really different. So yeah, I don't think I'd miss out on those opportunities. Experiences to me are the most important thing in the world right now.
Mm,
I'll always say yes to that.
mhm. Yeah, it's yeah. So emotion and ego, though. So I think that I'm assuming those are 2 very specific things, filters, that are specific to you, I would imagine. So like everybody listening, like, oh yeah, writing it down, like I'll never make a decision based on emotion and ego. But if you don't, so like those are 2 words that are very like align with my personality as well. Are you what do you know what your Enneagram is? Are you a 3 or a 7?
We're probably the same threes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But you probably mistype as a 7 all the time.
Sometimes, yeah. But when I go back to the three, there's a lady who posts all the time on Instagram, on Instagram, you would know whatever her name is, but she's always Align Co. I think is her name. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Mhm.
Every time she posts that three, she posted the other day. She said,
Ugh.
"If you're a three, this is what your house would look like. This room, everything is
I
perfectly
saw
designed.
this. Yes.
This room, there's competitions and games, and you win every single one." I was like, "Yes, that's me."
Yeah.
So it's always a three. It always falls back to a three. But no, I'll tell you, like, I think that's interesting you say that because when I first started practice, and you may remember when you started practice too, I don't know what it was like when I went to Life University. And the number one thing people
Oh, well,
talked about when you
you chose
graduate from
better than
chiropractic,
I did.
huh?
You chose better than I did. I
Where
went to
did you go?
Northwestern.
No judgment. It's all good. Look how great you are now,
Look, we
right?
got here. We got here.
You're a
Just took
success story from
slow.
there. It's great. But everyone always talked about volume at life. How many
Mhm.
do you see? What's your weekly volume? I'd go to seminars and everyone would be like, "Hey, did you break 100 yet?" And I was always like confused by that. I was like, what does that have to do with it? Like no restaurant is saying we served 400 people today. They're thinking we sold this much. Our dollar per like customer was this. They're looking at different KPIs compared to that. And so my ego really got in the way early on. And that did is that sacrificed my dollar visit average.
Yep.
I mean, there
Well,
was a
do you
point
know
in,
what was your lowest? I was gonna say, will you
yeah,
share
that's
what's your lowest
okay.
OVA?
$36.
Oh,
And
don't come at me
oh,
offending. Like I have sat at, or
over.
I used to sit at like 33 for years. Years.
You and I though,
Oh, but
we
I was
are
high
saints.
volume. I was high
Yes, that's
volume,
right.
all cash because
But
yeah.
you know what? We are humanitarians, Lauren, because we were
Mhm.
paying people to come to our office. Okay,
Yes.
that was my selfless service to the world. Oh my gosh. But what's interesting though is that clicked early for me. By the way, and
How
one of my
early?
mentors, it was early. It was 2012. And my mentor said to me, he goes, "Austin, how much is it?" I go, "It's about $36 a visit." I was like, "But dude, I see like 200 a week by myself." He goes, "Wait, I can get a haircut for more than you get for an adjustment. You're a doctor, and my haircut person makes more than you." I'm like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. And so after that, I really got clear. I think like prosperity consciousness is like the first off, as you know, I mean, you're obviously a successful chiropractor. Mindset is everything.
Mhm.
And prosperity consciousness and prosperity mindset is just that can transform everything. Great example is, I have 14 clinics, okay? I have a doctor in a certain clinic. Recently, he just moved away to be back closer to his family. And he would always complain about that zip code and how it was tough and the environment and the people in there were just low income and he couldn't sell big care plans. They were averaging about $47 a visit. 3 weeks ago, we bring in a new chiropractor with a different mindset. Guess what? Selling care plans, prepays, $72 a visit. He's jumped it by $25 a visit
Wow.
just by the mindset, right? And so it's like whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mhm.
He thought he can't, and that's why he wasn't successful. This new guy thinks he can, so he's finding opportunities, and things are coming to him, and he's attracting all of that, and now he's dominating.
So what did he add in value like, what did he literally add? Because I'm sure that he didn't just come in and be like, "I'm just gonna charge $25 more for the adjustment." How did he stack that value?
So interesting. He actually didn't add anything. No, it was
Nothing.
his confidence. Yeah, it was pure confidence. His confidence and his skill. He is a Gonstead like hardcore chiropractor, but he's really, 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 really good. And so you could say maybe he added like a little higher level of confidence in his clinical
Was
skills.
the amount of the
But
appointment time longer?
no, no, 2, 3 minute adjustments.
Really?
In Beaufort, South Carolina, by the way. But his confidence is, I mean, he's got it. He knows how good he is, and I've been adjusted by him, and he is really good clinician, by the way. But it was all mindset, and I see that in all of my but all of my clinics. Anytime somebody leaves and somebody new comes in, that tends to happen a lot. So it's just between the ears, like kind of the stories. And for us, like, and you've been down this too as well, where we may go through experiences where we go a week, right? We have 5 new patients and not one of them says yes to our care plan. Maybe they all say, well, I want to go somewhere that's in network with my insurance company. And that defeats you a little bit.
Mhm.
Like, you start questioning your fees. And that's where a bad place to make a decision, right? Because now you're making a decision based on emotion, because then you lower your fees because those 5 people said something bad
Right.
rather than self-reflecting and thinking, okay, what could I have done different? Like, could I have created a better experience? Where did I go wrong? Where was my headspace that week? Maybe they just weren't the right fit for this office, which is okay. Um, yeah. So it's been interesting to kind of navigate this over the last like 15 years, but I just think it's right between the ears.
So how'd you go from charging less than a haircut to 14 clinic? Like, give me the
You ready
cliff
for this?
notes. Yeah.
This is the worst answer, and everybody right now is probably thinking like, all right, what is the system?
Yeah, their pen and paper is out. They're
Here's your
so
pen and
ready.
paper. Ready for this? This is the system. Okay, it's like crazy. I put together a care plan on a document and I changed the fees and I said to myself, no matter what, you're not lowering this.
Okay.
And I literally stuck to my guns and we got it. Because what was happening was this is how bad it was. We were charging, let's say, $50 an adjustment, but if you prepaid, you get 30% off. It was like some
Ooh,
crazy
30%.
it was like crazy. Okay. It was like some astronomical number. And then what we did was we went up to, I believe, like it was like 60 or $65, but we only gave like 15% off or 10% off, whatever the number was. But like I stuck to my guns on that because if you would have said to me, Lauren, back then, you would have said, Austin, this is too expensive. I can't afford this. I'd say, Lauren, I'm a servant to this profession and to your health. What do you think you can afford? And you'd be like, oh, I think I can afford like $150 a month. I'd be like, well, you know what? I don't want to put price in the way of you getting the care in this office that you need. So let's go ahead and do that. And we maybe see you once a week. Guess how many of those people, Lauren, I negotiated with are still in my office today?
Probably not many
You are
because they
correct.
didn't
0.
value it.
They
Yep.
did not value it. And it is exactly right. Correct. 0. So it was just all it was a mindset shift for me and my brain. The next day, that's all we did. And we just stuck to our guns. Right. But I was consistent with that, even when I got no's. But the reason why I think it was easier to do that was I had a support system of people around me. My sphere of influence was strong. And when I told all of them what I was going to do, these people were making tons of money, by the way. These were very successful non-chiropractors. These were just very successful business people who were in my sphere. And they even said the same thing to me, like, you got to stick to your guns on this. It will work. Your mindset is strong. You're a great clinician. People will pay for what they value. And they started to do that. And we were able to see the exact same amount of volume, but make a significant amount more money. We are, as chiropractors, we leave a lot of money on the table.
Oh gosh.
As you and I both know.
So, but like, okay, so we were that type of, although we were charging really low, but like it was like, this is the care plan. It is our way or the highway. I am not going to cheapen your experience. I am not, like all of that. Like that was the coaching that I was getting was just very like alpha energy, line in the sand. You want to play in my playground type of thing. And I don't wanna say it worked because that sounds, like it felt congruent for a while. So I would say from the time I was like 28, because I started in practice at 24. From the time I was like 28 to like 33-ish, there was like this 5-year period where like, we're talking about high level neurological changes that we're trying to impact. We're helping kids with ADHD, like anxiety. If we want to get these results, this is what it needs to be. We have the science to back us up. Like no once a week, like 3 times a week is what it has to be. And, some people would say yes, and some people would say no because they couldn't. They would say, like, and we're coached through like, well, what happens if they say I can only come once a week? And it's like, mm-mm, that's not going to help. And then, like after like 5 years, like it just started to feel like because you brought up the word ego, it kind of felt like it just wasn't in alignment. Like it was like I was softening with age of like, yeah, but getting here 3 times a week is really hard. And, like, for some people. And, like, is there a way to do you know who Simon Floriani is?
Is he in Australia?
Yeah. Well, New
Yeah.
Zealand?
New
Australia?
Zealand. Yeah, yeah. I know the name though. Yeah.
Same difference.
Yeah.
Um, so if we go back like a year and a half, my podcast interview with him, because like you can always tell what I'm going through in life based on the questions I ask the people on the show. And so I'm talking to him through this. Like he's a world renowned chiropractor, communicator, hugely successful in practice. And so I was like, but just, like, how do you manage this? And it was just talking about this softening as a practitioner of just like letting them know, like set their expectations differently. But like, do you feel like there is any part of you? Like, does that still feel like in practice, like, nope, this is how it's going to be? Or like, are you softening to, like, the human experience of, like, life is really hard, everyone's doing their own battle, and how do I get them some chiropractic,
Yeah,
type of
we
thing?
yeah, I know, and it's a good question, right? Because I have, like, I would say over the years, and to me, it's like, I don't wanna want it more than somebody else, and so
For
for them,
sure.
right? Right, so, like, if they come to the office and they're like, "Yeah, well, I travel, like, Monday through Thursday," like, there's literally no way I can be here 3 times a week, then, yeah, I mean, like, we'll offer them a package, for example, and you know what? It's very expensive. Actually, it's about $125 a visit if they go on a package, for a 3-minute adjustment, and if they're willing to pay that, I'm willing to do that, and
Mhm.
I know they will value each experience. Like the ones that do pay that and get those packages, which is maybe 5 to 10%. It's very rare, by the way. But being in Atlanta, we do have a lot of people that travel. They will do the warm up exercises we have. Like they will maximize the experience in our office for sure. And I love that. So which is great. But I won't negotiate anymore if they're like, well, I really can only make it in like a couple times a month or even once a month. At that point, yeah, we would
No.
just be like, go to the joint or go like down the
Yes.
street. Like I have friends who are chiropractors. They'll even adjust you first visit. They won't take X-rays. Like you can literally just go there whenever you want. They're more loose. And so I think we have some good relationships in the community too, as well, that we can refer out for those experiences, which is
Well,
great.
yeah, because you can't be everything to everyone. That's the other thing though too, is like what I'm not saying is like negotiate, get every single person either a frequency or price that they're comfortable with. Like, no, because then what ends up happening, like we openly tell patients that if you once they get into wellness, like type of thing, that like if you don't plan on coming and getting adjusted like once a month at minimum, like we're just probably not your clinic, and that's okay. Like if you want to get checked only when it hurts, come in for 1 or 2 adjustments, be given a whole bunch of at-home physical therapy exercise. Like you are just describing, you couldn't pay me $300 for that adjustment because it just I know in a high volume how much that like fucks with the cogwheels. Oops, your kids are on there. Sorry. Like, it really just, like, messes up our flow of, like, "Oh," like, I'm going to my CA, "Who's on the table?" And they're like, "That's Tom." And I'm like, "Who the hell is Tom?" And they're like, "Come here." And they're like, "He hasn't been in since December, but, like, he said he slept wrong." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome." So I have to just go like, "Gee, Tom, you slept wrong?"
And if I'm
"Yeah,
Tom, I'm gonna
well,
say to you, Dr. Lauren, I
can you
woke up and my
massage it?"
neck is so bad. Yeah, can you spend a little extra time? You're like, what is going on? You're not even a good patient. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have learned, like, there are chiropractors in my town who that is exactly what they do. And so, like, yeah, that's okay. Like, Tom,
Great.
go, good. I am so glad that other chiros exist. But like, yeah, it can't be everything to everyone for sure.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you, how long have you been in practice for?
Tenure. No, that's a lie. I started in 2010. So this will be my 14th year.
Okay. Do you love practicing now more than when you did in 2010?
I don't think you're going to like the answer I give you to
Oh,
that.
no. Okay. I was curious.
Okay. There's a yes and a no. There's a yes, but
All right.
in the last, so as a three, you'll probably relate to this. I feel like for the first 10 years of practice, I just tried to make everybody like me. And there were so many, like, I just gave all the fucks. Like, I just needed everyone to like me. And it was really about that. And then I feel like, so I'm going to be 38 this Sunday. And I feel like just in the last like 2 years, practice has become a lot more fun. Well, we've done so much with our systems that like practice is never fun if you're not profitable and your systems suck. Like you can love the like all you want, but like so we got really good on our numbers, our system. Practice became easier, and then I started to like, well, if I'm not for you, that's okay. And like you just I don't hold on to the no's as much. Every person who like needed to drop off care or take a break and I'm like, "No, I love that family." Like I used to take it so personal. um I still take it more personal than I should, but like practice is more fun.
Okay.
But
No, but I love this answer because
yeah.
I think for a lot of people who are probably listening, right? Like I graduated a year before. I graduated in '09, and I would say I love clinic care right now more than I ever have in my entire career, by the way. Like I love being a chiropractor more than anything in the world, actually. It's like I love it. But to your point, systems, processes, people, those things right there make it fun. I'm also there too as well. Like we've been able to scale a bit too as well, where I'm there the days I want to be there.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I mean, just it's a flawless clinic just based on like our operations and systems. And I think too as well, like charging a fee that you feel value exchange in there feels good. I have a lot of friends who are chiropractors who aren't charging what they're worth, and I know they feel burnt out. And it's easy to get to that place if there's not a lot of good value exchange. The systems aren't that great. The people are like C players. It's an easy place to get there. And it's my philosophy is just I feel like as I've gotten older, I've gotten really clear on like what's important to me. And practice is obviously very important to me. The two most important things to me in my life are relationships and experiences. And chiropractic is a way to fuel those things for me, especially experiences just based on income. And but having those things I feel like have helped a lot with burnout too as well. Because my first few years, I had no friends. I was grinding and work. I mean, there was a couple of nights, Lauren, I slept in my office because I had no new patients on the books. My wife was like, "Are you coming home?" I was like, "Nah, probably not." I was like, "I'm going to sleep in his office and figure out a way to get a new patient." So what I would do is I would go on Twitter and type in like headaches, low back pain, Atlanta. And people like would go on Twitter and they'd be like, "Oh, I have the worst headache right now." And the location would be in Atlanta. I'd be like, "Oh, well, I'm a chiropractor. Would love to see you." Like I got this like radio jockey one time. It was like 1 a.m. This radio jockey, this guy, Johnny O. And he came into my office because like I did this trick on him. But I was like literally laying on my massage tables in the back room. I was sleeping in the office because I didn't have any new patients on the books that week. But I was sacrificing so many friendships and relationships, by the way, which looking back, probably not the best thing to do. The thing like I feel like I've gotten really clear on is just the more relationships I have, the more I'm able to create experiences and get back to hobbies and doing things I love to do, reduces burnout big time. Like I know
Oh
you
my
were just
god, I
trapped.
have so many questions for you. Okay, but so I get this from a lot of new grads where they'll see us, been in practice 10 plus years and starting to reap the rewards of like life has more freedom and more options. Why? Well, because we were able to bring on team members. Without team members, you're kind of like, like it's kind of like step one is creating a practice that is profitable enough that you can afford to bring on a level chiropractors in your, to deliver the service. But the question is do you think like maybe you could have gone home and just like obsessed about tweets from your own house, but you still would have been working. But like, could you imagine getting to the level of success you've gotten to without the hustle era.
I would say yes. However,
Okay.
I would still have to have hustled. Here's where I went wrong. And by the way, for those that are newer in business, not even practice, right? Like anybody in business could value from this conversation. And I'll tell you why. Is like I'm in chapter 15 right now. If you're
Mhm.
a new grad, you're in chapter one. You are not comparing your chapter one to my chapter 15. And if you are, that's going to be a big mistake on your part because you can't do that, of course, right? But I think when I was early on, it was more so about I wasn't good at time management, right?
Okay.
And the key was I wasn't present. So I may be at like a marketing event and I'm really not like understanding how to maximize this marketing event because I'm also trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good friend and really just being where your feet are. Like that's one of like the lines I live my life by and I teach my kids is like be where your feet are. Like when you're at dinner with your family, you're dinner with your family. When you're in school, you're in school. There's literally nowhere else you can go while you're in school. When you're on the baseball field, you're on the baseball field. Like if you're always where your feet are at, life actually can be a little bit easier. But to early on, if you're in chapter one, chapter two, chapter three in any business, you got to hustle
Yes,
and you got to grind.
there's no shortcut. And like I feel like right now there's so much on social media. I mean, not from the Gary V's, not from the Hermosis, not from those people, but like there's these like and I don't know their life, so I shouldn't call them fake coaches, like business coaches. But, like, it's so easy to sell, like, "Oh, you're not successful because you're not working or you're working too much." It's kind of like, you're doing it wrong. If you feel like you're having to hustle in the beginning, you're doing something wrong. Like, that's the underlying thread that I feel like so many new startups are being fed, and so they feel like they're like, I'm working like 60 plus hours a week and this is hard and I am grinding. What am I doing wrong? But like if you're a coach selling a lifestyle, then it's like, well, come tell me, I'll pay me and I will tell you like how you can accomplish so much more working 10 hours a week.
But that coach, what I would ask that coach is just being obviously a three Enneagram, but also somebody who would ask a lot of questions, always asking a lot of questions would be, well, what did you do in your chapter one and your chapter two? Like, don't tell me how you're living your life now. I want to know, like, what did you do when you first started? Because to me, like, that is the ultimate testament. It'd be like chiropractors, and you hear this all the time. I'll get patients come in and they'll say, oh, yeah, my chiropractor had me just come twice a year. I was like, did you ever ask the chiropractor how often they get adjusted? Because I bet you it's once a week or every other week. So they're telling somebody something that like they want to be fed because the chiropractors are probably a poverty mindset and they want to be liked. So they tell the patient, like, just come in a couple times a year. We'll take good care of you rather than telling them what the patient actually needs because maybe they feel like they're going to be a salesperson or they feel like they're overdue, like asking for too much money or like whatever it is. But I'm very like, and one thing you'll learn about me is the people who I look up to and my mentors, for example, and coaches are people who are doing it, right? Like I could tell anybody how to have a good marriage. Hey, Lauryn, just do date nights, go on these travels like once a quarter, do all these things. If I'm not doing it, it's very easy to tell somebody what to do, right?
Mhm.
But to your point, like, you got to grind. You got to grind. You got to hustle, and you got to get uncomfortable, right? If you're not tired in your first 3 years in business, I don't think you're going to make your potential amount of income. Like I was tired. I was uncomfortable. I
You
walked.
got that new girl energy. You got to do it then. Because if you don't have the
Yes.
energy in those first 3 years, there's no way you're getting it 10 years in. Like it's not
No
happening.
chance. I walked. So ready for this? When I first started, I walked. There's a road in Atlanta called Peachtree Road. Okay, I walked up and down that street for it was 14 days straight, and I wanted to meet 1,000 people. And what I would do is I'd walk into a business. So I'd walk into your business, say, "Hey, I'm Dr. Austin. I'm thinking about opening up a chiropractic office down the street. Would you say one, this is a health conscious community?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, I think so." Great. Are there any doctors in the community you think that are good people I should connect with or refer to that maybe aren't so pushing pills, but they're maybe more focused on preventative healthcare? And they'd be like, I really don't. I said, you know what? I've really thought about this and I think I can be that for this community. I'm having an open house in 6 months. I'd love to invite you if you're interested in coming. And they'd be like, absolutely. And I get their email address, by the way. And Lauryn, I did that for 1,000 people. But by the way, for those that are listening are thinking that was easy for him, right? It's very easy for us to portray like our beliefs on other people.
Mhm.
It wasn't easy for me, actually. It was very uncomfortable. And my hands were shaking when I would walk into businesses. I was extremely nervous. And I remember times where I would be like, I don't want to walk into the Wells Fargo, man. What are they going to think about me? I mean, there's just a lot of people in there. It's kind of a big office. And that's when I had to get out of my head and just do what was uncomfortable. And for those that are listening, it's like, if your coach is keeping you comfortable and in a warm zone, that's scary. Like, I don't know how you're going to grow. That's why I love when people do endurance races, because you got to get uncomfortable doing an endurance race. It's a challenge. It's going to push you harder. You're going to grow from it. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm laughing internally because I have heard new docs come to be like, well, my new coach said I don't need to work on the weekends and do screenings. Like, well, your new coach doesn't like money.
Screenings are old. And it's like, no, they're not. No, they're not. They freaking work. Okay.
Work is history of time.
So I feel like, so I was talking to a business coach this past weekend at an event, and he said, like, the people who can help you get to $1 million are different than the people who can get you from 1 to 3 million, who are different than the people who can get you from 3 to 5, 5 to 10 type of thing. Like, they're just different things that you start to focus on. And I was interviewing someone last week too, who she was talking about how, like, the skills that she needed to get from 0 to a million were different than the skills from 1 to 5. And I feel like kind of coming, so I'll tell you the question, but the question is, like, what skills were necessary for you to actually scale at the level you did? So the first 10 years, I was chasing that 7 figure, right? Because we talk about all these ego things within chiropractic, and I'm a 7 figure clinic. Don't ask me my profitability. Don't ask that. But I'm 7 figures and I'm high volume. Um, and so we just, in my head, I thought we were scaling. But really, when I look back on it, we were duplicating. And so it was just like, all right, this is how we got to 100 people a week. Well, just going to do twice as much of that to get to 200 a week. And then to get to 400 a week, we did twice as much of that. And then the plan to get to 800 a week was do twice as much as that. And we didn't get to 800 a week because the whole cart of everything collapsed once we got to that million. And I was like, okay, so if I want to get to 2 million, up until that point, everything I had done and learned was just keep doubling. And I'm sitting there looking at this 7 figure practice that has 4 doctors and 6 CAs and 3 clinics. And I'm like, so to get to 2 million, I have to double this? Ew. No, I don't want any part of this. And that's when I started to really understand, like, because during this time period, I would meet chiros and they're like, oh yeah, I met this guy, this chiro at a conference in Dallas. And he was like, "Yep, we own 15 clinics and we're looking to open 4 more this year." And I'm like, "4 more this year? I am drowning in 2. What are you doing different than me?" So that's my question. What is the difference? Because lots of people have opened up a second clinic. And I think they do it through just replicating, like, just, multiplying. But that's not actually scaling. Like, what is the difference in your mind of, because I think once you master the difference of scaling, that's when it's like, oh, you don't, because you have 14 clinics.
Yeah. Yeah. With 14.
Yeah, you didn't do that just by multiplying your time because you literally would not be able to sleep.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's like the whole conversation, right? It's like trading time for dollars, right? It's like the worst thing you could possibly do because you have a limited resource of time. And, most people like myself are not willing to trade in that time, especially nowadays. I'm not going to trade it on the weekends for work, no matter how much it's going to produce out income, right? So, I think there's a lot to unpack in this question, but here's what I'll say. First thing is, for anybody who's probably within their first like 5 to 6 years in business, I truly think they just got to get really clear on who they are and what they want. I think a lot of people graduate from school, chiropractic school or a trade school, and they think they want to own their own business. I don't think that many people should own their own business,
Agree.
truthfully. I think it's a much smaller number. But in today's world, what I love is there's some great opportunities for people to make a lot of money. Most of my doctors, if not all of them, make over 6 figures, okay, as they should and as they deserve.
Mhm.
And they've earned that. But a
But
lot
that's
of them have got,
only possible with charging an appropriate price.
for sure. And by the way, most of my doctors make more than a lot of my friends who own their own clinics. But the reason for that is, like, I think for them, they got clear on in the beginning. Most people want to open their own business because of ego. It's a decision based on ego. Once again, we talked about this already. But it's not really what they want. Like understanding the people and everything else. So I think once you're clear, like you and I are clear, like we are entrepreneurs. Like here's our mindset. Here's who we are. They're like, there's entrepreneurs, there's business builders, and there's clinicians. And what I, I think what as we've grown and how we've been able to scale is a few things. So one, really, really, really good systems. One of the biggest transformative things that we did was I read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. You probably know this book. And that book was transformational. And what I was willing to do is I was willing to invest a lot of money, like $40,000, into bringing on an EOS implementer in order to transform my business and to actually turn it into a real business, not just a high paying job for me. And so when he came in, what we learned was that I was doing everything. And I don't know if you've been through this experience or not with an implementer, but what would happen was like literally I was doing every single job in the clinic. And so my A team actually, and by the way, out of the 4 people who were at this meeting, 3 of them are still with me. And this is almost 10 years ago. And so they took a lot of responsibility. By the way, they took ownership on a lot of things. And it was great because that allowed them to grow too as well at the company. And that was one of the biggest things we did. But it's the book Traction. It's an operating system for your business. And for those of you guys that have Chiro 180, which is our software, but we actually have it in there, by the way. So a lot of people are like, oh, that's the software he always talks about. Yes, that is it. Traction is like the greatest thing ever. That's why it's in the software we put together. So that was one. The second thing I love is I think you got to really learn how to be a level 4 or level 5 leader. Jim Collins has a book called Good to Great. You may have heard about it. The level of your leadership will determine the level of your income. I mean, it is just there's some friends of mine, they can only communicate with people who are like them. So for example, elections coming up. If they're a Republican, they can only get along with Republicans. If they're a Democrat, they can only get along with Democrats. They can't, if they're let's say they're a Trump supporter, they can't have a Harris office manager or a Harris associate doctor because they don't understand how to be a level 4 or level 5 leader and they can't communicate with that person. I have a company of almost 40 people. I don't care who people vote for. I don't care. There's a lot of things. We're there for one mission. We're there for our core values, which are 4 core values. We're there for those things and to serve and to obviously make money. And all the other stuff, I don't get connected with. So I think if you can really develop really good systems through EOS or Traction, the book Traction, I think if you can develop yourself and becoming a very, very good leader and understanding how to keep your emotions out of it. I mean, listen, my employees sometimes make comments to me and they're trying to bait me, right? Like I can tell they're trying to like bait me. They're like, hey, so what do you think about that debate? I'm like, I really didn't get a chance to watch it, unfortunately. I'm sure it was great, but listen, hey, today's schedule though, we really got to make sure we focus on the 9 a.m. slot. There's a lot of people coming in, right? I think a lot of chiropractors would get baited into that conversation, and that's not a good place to be. And if you can raise your level of leadership, you can build really good systems. You're going to obviously then start attracting good people into your company. Then you're going to place those people into good positions. You're going to allow them to grow and give them opportunity for growth because now you're a strong leader, and then naturally the whole thing will grow. But I'm very clear, of course, on now what I want. I have 14 clinics. I don't want that many more, by the way. Right? Like I could make a lot more money and turn this into a $100 million company if I really wanted to. But now I'm trading time for, time for dollars. But at what point is it enough? Right? I mean, for me, like I told you already, like relationships and experiences. I've got a lot of friends and I do a lot of cool stuff. And I'm just not willing to sacrifice that. Like I've got 18 summers with my kids. By the time the kids are 12 years old, you've already spent 85% of your time with them. I'm very, very clear on that. And, I don't think for me, like my relationship with my father was something that I would have strived to be as a father. And I know what I would like to be when my kids get older. So I think it's just, you get clarity, build systems, be a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Start with clarity first.
Okay. How often are you how many shifts are you in practice adjusting?
I'm there about 2 days a week.
Okay.
Because I
So
want
we're going to move to the time management portion of my questions. So you're in clinic adjusting 2 days a week.
I'm there Mondays and Wednesdays. Yeah.
You have 40 employees for this business. And then you have Chiro 180.
We have Chiro 180 that has about 3 employees.
Okay. But
Then
still time, a lot of
still
time.
time. Yeah. And then we have L5 and I have L5 Marketing, which is a company that helps chiropractors with their digital marketing with another guy. And then I have a pretty large real estate portfolio that we manage.
So how are you so I know that the filter that you went through before choosing whether to start other businesses had it can't be from ego or emotion. But how are you literally having enough time to managing 40 people and adjusting 2 days a week? To me, that is that's a full-time gig. What kind of systems do you have in place for the chiropractic clinic
Yeah.
that managing 40 people doesn't fill up the other 5 days a week?
So I would say for any chiropractor, right? Like build to sell. Now, I have no goal to sell my company anytime soon. Like, and that's been like a common thing in chiropractic, I think recently. Everyone's like, you got to sell, exit. I'm like, I practice because I want to. Like,
Mhm.
I don't practice because I have to. Like, I actually, it's my passion. And all my friends are like, you can make so much more money if you didn't practice. I'm like, but it makes me happy. And I really, really enjoy being a chiropractor. And so, but to answer your question, I mean, I think it's comes down to the people. And when I say build a sell, what I mean is building an org chart essentially and defining. And I think where we went wrong early on is becoming very, very crystal clear on everybody's roles and responsibility. Like if there's not a lot of new patients in a clinic, it's like who's responsible for that? If there's a employee that quits, who's responsible for the next like hiring and firing of the next person?
Mhm.
And like
If
I mean,
every
I'm
time
talking
it's
like
you,
it
this is an
was
issue.
me, but
Mhm.
we passed it on off to everybody else, right? So we call our doctors like CEOs, essentially. Like they're not owners, but they're CEOs of their clinics, and they're treated that way, by the way. Like they are high level executives, and we have a COO of our company, and I think it was probably the best hire I ever made in my entire career. Was I hired a chief operations guy, and he actually handles all the doctors' calls, by the way nowadays. Like I don't handle any doctor's calls anymore. I call my doctors because I want to, not because I have to. I have no conversations with them related to business. He does all the growth calls with them. And that's been monumental. But once again, like it's just level 10 meetings, really good systems. And this is gonna like freak a lot of people out. And this is a chapter like 15, by the way. So don't expect for anybody. Like if you're new and you're like, how I've got 4 clinics, I feel like I'm drowning here. Right. I would just say right now in chapter 15, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm actually kind of bored. Like in
Are
the
those
afternoon, like
your adjusting or non-adjusting days?
these are my non-adjusting days. And I don't have a whole lot to do. So usually those are like out with friends, like maybe going to the gun range or we're having lunch or doing some cool workouts. But it's just one of those things where it took time to get there by hiring the right people. And here's the mindset I think is a really good one for a lot of people to have is let's say you're hiring somebody, you're going to pay them, let's say $120,000 a year. Okay. So the guy who I hired as my operations guy, he doesn't make that, but let's just say he was making $120,000 a year, but that's for easy math, that's $10,000 a month. I was willing to risk $30,000 to see the opportunities that this could create for me by bringing on an operations person. So what I told him, I said, hey, let's do this for 3 months. And if this works, we'll keep you on long term. So what we ended
Mm.
up doing was it worked, right? The $30,000 was like after 3 months, we're crushing it. We're dominating. Our profits are going through the roof. Revenue is growing. The clinics that weren't doing as well are now doing better. Doctors are happier because now they don't have to talk to me anymore. It was like great. And so we kept them on. But I do that all the time. Anytime there's an opportunity of I think, so we do our SWOT analysis a lot, by the way. And for those that don't know what that is, it's a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. We're always looking at our weaknesses. And one of our weaknesses was doctor's conversation with me because my time is limited. And at 16 doctors, mathematically, how am I going to make that work? It's almost impossible with clinical hours. And so we were like, one of my buddies said, hey, you need to hire a COO, you need to hire an operations guy. I was like, it's so expensive. He's like, here's how much it's going to cost you. And that was the mindset. I was like, but you know what? I'm willing to risk $30,000 to make a lot more than that.
Well, and you were honest with him, her, him.
Him. Yeah.
You were honest with him from the beginning about like, this is what I need. Like, so many of us hire and we feel this like it's all about like, oh, thank you so much for accepting this job. I really need this. And then I think that can translate through to like the quality of hire you get. Like if you put it out there of like, this is what I need, I want you to set you up for success. But at the end of 90 days, if this, and this are not improved, basically, if you're not paying for yourself, then, it's just not going to work out. Like, could you imagine bringing on, I mean, you can, of course you can. I'm talking to everybody else right now. It's a rhetorical question. They can't answer. But like, can you imagine bringing on an associate that way? That's terrifying for them. But like, listen, our revenue needs to grow by this amount within 6 months in order for me to be able to keep you on here. Here's what I know about business because you don't know is that means in order for us to have that amount of growth, we need to see our new patient numbers go up by you tell them what they need to do. We need to get 15 additional more new patients signed on for care every month. If we do that while maintaining, retention, we'll be there. You told them what to
Yeah.
do. And you were just honest. Like, but It's
But the
just
transparency to your point though is like that's where I think a big missing link is. So I
mhm,
think a lot of doctors, I'll see this a lot. They'll bring on associates and they'll call me. They'll be like, Austin, how do you have so many associates? My associate, I brought them on and they're like not even bringing any new patients in. Like, should I fire them? And I was like, and I say,
mm,
but what was the expectation from day one, right? I mean,
mhm,
'cause to me, I bring on associates that are not, I don't want them to get new patients. Actually, they're there to help with our PVA and also allow us to grow to see more volume.
mhm.
No expectation to bring in new patients. And I think a lot of doctors, they get older, they start to bring on associates purely to like bring on new patients, where I would actually rather hire an associate to help with my PVA and my revenue and then just hire a salesperson for not a lot of money and have them out on the weekends doing all your sales and allow the chiropractor to do their role. And once again, it's like thinking like a real business
Thinking
is right.
like a real business.
And that's where I think a lot of chiropractors go wrong. We think like clinicians, and having just that sphere of influence of people who are maybe non-chiropractors, I think could be one of the greatest things that a chiropractor I don't know if you're affiliated. I know Elise is affiliated with EO, Entrepreneur Organization.
Mhm.
I've been a
I
member there for 10 years. Best
okay.
investment I've ever made.
Really?
Yeah, it's great investment.
I actually don't know much about it. Like I've seen her gone on some things, but I've just like kind of been head down and okay.
All right, so you ready for this? This is interesting because you hinted this a little earlier. You were saying your goal was to get to like be a seven-figure business. Okay, in order to be affiliated with EO, you've got to do a business. You have to have a business of at least $1 million or more.
Mhm.
In the South Florida chapter, they raised that from 1 million to 2.5 million.
Really?
But guess
What
what
do you
happened
think
to
their
all of it?
Wisconsin chapter is? It's probably like
It's definitely
250.
$1 million. Most all EO standard minimum is $1 million, but they
Mhm.
decided to raise it. But guess what happened to the businesses that were doing 1.5 to 2 million? Guess what happened to them?
They grew to 2.5.
Grew to 2.5. That's exactly right. So they set that standard, right, of like what they had to get to. And that's sometimes the barriers like we place on ourselves. I feel like a lot as chiropractors and as people, it's like we're leaving so much in the tank. And as long as we're clear on exactly what we want and listening to the right people, it is going to take hustle and like it's going to take grind. But I don't think it needs to be all the time. By the way, I do think there should be seasons,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll call them expansion cycles, where it's like between February, usually we'll say between like January 3rd up to like March 1st for us is a major marketing expansion cycle. Actually, we're in the middle of a major one right now, and it goes all the way until November 15th. And then between November 15th and usually December 5th, we calm down. And between December 5th and December 10th, we go crazy marketing, but then we slow down till January 3rd. So we have different cycles built in our company where it's like, hey, I want you to grind during this time, but I want to make sure you're also taking time away during this time. And if you're not taking time away and traveling, maybe you're focusing on internal events. Maybe you're focusing on personal development. I don't know, but I don't want you to burn out doing like marketing of screenings like every single weekend for 52 weekends all the time, right? I do think there needs to be built-in structure in there as well.
Mm. I'm
But you gotta
so
go.
excited to hear you talk at the conference. It's just rare to talk to a chiropractor that is bringing innovative ideas. And I don't mean that offensively, but like, like it's just like it's a lot of the same inspiration points and things like that. And so like that's why so often when you kind of get out of the chiropractic bubble and you start talking to people who think about businesses like a business, it's like, "Oh, wow, that makes sense. Why didn't why that just is that makes such good sense." And it's like, "Yeah, well, we're if you stay in the chiropractic bubble, a lot of times you just fed the same thing, which isn't bad, but it's just not expansion it's not expanding." So, I am so excited to
I'm
hear
pumped, by the way. Y'all are great. This is
um
fun.
okay, so where can people who aren't gonna be at Chiro WealthCon find more of you? Like, how can they are you on podcasts? Where can like, do you have blogs? Where can they get more information of like your ideas and innovation?
Yeah, I would say first off, for anybody who's like, if you want to connect, there's two places. First off, I don't do coaching. Okay, just like clarity there. So I get people all the time on Instagram who are like, "Hey, do you do coaching?" I'm like, I don't do coaching, but I appreciate that. However, you know what I do is every Friday I send out a newsletter called Present Joys and Best Practices, and that newsletter goes out every Friday. And what it is, it's business thoughts on my mind, personal thoughts on my mind, current read or current watch, and a quote I'm thinking about. It's about a 2-minute read, very just straight to the point. And usually I'll add in also like worksheets about things like we've done. For example, like there's a worksheet that it's going to go out this weekend. And that worksheet is all about actually asking yourself questions, becoming a level 5 leader. And if you're a level 5 leader, there's been worksheets that actually have you write out your patient experience. There's worksheets that have you define your why and exercises you can take your team through. So I would recommend subscribe to my newsletter, by the way. It's every Friday, it's once a week. I don't like sell your email addresses. Like I don't spam. I'm not one of those kind of chiropractors. Like it's just purely once a week. It's fun. But if you want to figure out how to do that, actually on my Instagram is just Dr. Austin Cohen, Dr. Austin Cohen. I do tend to post a lot of like just business stuff, by the way, on there too as well. Like I said, I love this profession more than anything in the world. And there's nothing that makes me happier when I see chiropractors succeed and hit their potential and their stride, but also like being happy. Like that to me is just, I really want to see that. I don't care how much they're making. I have a lot of friends who make a lot of money as chiropractors and they're miserable. Relationships suck with their household. It's just really sad. And so for me, it's like, if more chiropractors were happy and doing well, man, that would make my life, great. This is cool. My daughter wants to be a chiropractor. She's 9 years old.
Oh.
I want the profession to be around and even be greater for
Mm.
her when she gets into this profession.
It needs to
Uh,
be. We have too much burnout in the profession.
it will. I think it will. And so yeah, there's those two, by the way, freebies. And the last thing is for those of you guys, many of you probably have heard probably Chiro 180 by now. It's just revolutionizing the profession. I mean, I talk a lot about like brand development outside of just your own logo and lexicon, like in your practice, but also like this thing it's unbelievable. I mean, people are building spinal health scores for their patients now. Care plan calculator, you can actually see like your office visit average, like as you build a care plan live for a patient. All EOS systems are built into this. But then I also I do 2 growth calls once a month at every other Tuesday at 1:00. And basically it's turned into consulting calls. So I don't like pay, you're not paying me for coaching, but you get Chiro
Mhm.
180 and like basically you're getting the coaching in there. But
Does
it's
Chiro 180 like
cool.
integrate with software?
No, it's actually its own software.
Okay.
So it's a standalone software. But in there's like, the new patients can do their paperwork. But like for Chiro Touch, so we have Chiro Touch. One of the long-term goals is to integrate, but it's just not that important right now for us to do that. But it's cool because, and the reason why a lot of it started was we've been building it for about 5 years, by the way, in our own business, and it's been doing so well. And a lot of my friends said, dude, how do I get this?
Right.
So that's when we decided to finally like license it out to chiropractors. But what happened was I went to my medical doctor or my naturopathic doctor one time. She did like 100 blood panel thing on me. And she goes through with me. And I was like, all right, is this good or bad? She's like, no, it's good. I was like, this doesn't make any sense though. There's like, these things are red. And so what I realized is actually there's probably a lot of my patients that after I do x-rays with them, they're like, well, is that good or bad?
Right.
And so
And
now
you're
they
like,
get
"I just
like
told
a
you for the
score.
last 15 minutes. What do you mean?"
Exactly. So
Good
now they
or
get
bad.
a score, which is like maybe like a 62, a 63, a 65, whatever it is. So they see that they're like, I don't want to fail. I've never failed anything. I want to be healthy. I want to be an A. I'm like, great. To get to an A does take time. And I'm willing to commit the time to you as long as you're willing to commit the time to me. Our first goal though is to get you to a 70. If we can get you to 70, it's a great starting point, and then we'll build on there. So it allows us to build also now a long-term plan with them. But the care plan calculator, I mean, most chiropractors are using Excel spreadsheets and documents. Literally, you're going into this care plan calculator after you build a care plan, and you just punch in the numbers of like how often you put the supplement you want to sell, decompression. It tells you at the top right too, like your average dollar visit average or office visit average in there on that care plan. So in our offices, and it's a quick little business thing, I know we're out of time, but we take our overhead per each clinic per month. We divide it by total number of visits, which basically is our cost per visit, right? It's like
Yep,
how much
yep.
it costs us to run a visit in an office, and every clinic knows their number, and nobody's ever allowed to go below that number.
Right.
And it's cool because everyone uses chiropractic in our clinics, and so it's just like systems, right? Like systems. Which some people get frustrated with too many systems,
I feel
limiting
like
their growth
systems give freedom.
gives freedom.
Systems give
Exactly
freedom.
right. So yeah, those are 3 ways: newsletter, Instagram, and then Chiro 180. And those
Awesome.
are
We will have those links below. It was really nice to meet you. I'm glad we got to talk beforehand. So I'm not meeting you at the first time at Cairo WealthCon. And I'm just thank you so much for your time. Be safe in the hurricane.
Oh,
Like,
thank you. And thank you, by the way, for doing this for the profession, by the way. You have an amazing podcast. And I hope you know that. And so I know a lot of people do look up to you, and you don't always probably hear it from a lot of people, but I hear it from other people. And so keep doing what you're doing because it's actually working really well.
thanks so much, Austin.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
that's as a 3, I am clamming up and I don't like words of affirmation. I'm like, okay, well
Change the
now it's
topic.
awkward.
Change the topic.
Discomfort. All right. Until next week, She Slayers. Bye.